NASA made a $22 billion mistake. They handed America's entire space program to one man, Elon Musk. Right now, SpaceX Dragon is the only way to get astronauts to space. Boeing failed, Russia's out. If Musk says no tomorrow, our astronauts are stranded. But here's the crazy part. NASA astronauts actually refuse to fly anything else. They've tried Dragon's luxury and won't go back to cramped Russian capsules. So what happens when Musk just threatened to shut down Dragon operations? The Pentagon panicked, China's racing ahead, and NASA has zero alternatives. How did America become so dependent on one company? And what's the real cost of this monopoly? Let's dive right in. The perfect storm that created America's space crisis. The dependency didn't happen overnight. It started with good intentions and ended with America's space program hanging by a thread. Back in 2014, NASA launched the Commercial Crew Program with a simple goal: never again rely on Russia for space access. They handed out contracts to two companies. SpaceX got $2.6 billion. Boeing received $4.2 billion for the exact same job. Think about that for a second. Boeing got more money, more time, more resources. They were the safe bet, the legacy contractor, the company that built the space shuttle. SpaceX? Just some upstart with a flashy CEO who tweeted too much. Fast forward to today. SpaceX has flown 10 perfect crew missions. Boeing's Starliner still grounded after multiple failures. But here's what NASA didn't expect. Their astronauts would fall in love with Dragon, the astronaut revolution that changed everything. Step inside Dragon, and you immediately understand why astronauts won't fly anything else. 9.3 cubic meters of cabin space. That's like having a small bedroom. In space, the interior screams luxury, sleek black and white design, carbon fiber finishes, seats wrapped in Alcantara fabric, the same material used in Ferraris. Now, compare that to Russia's Soyuz capsule. 4 cubic meters, 3 astronauts crammed like sardines. NASA astronaut Don Pettit described it perfectly. Once strapped in, my heels almost touched my buttocks. 8 restraint points. Only hands, head, and toes could move. Some astronauts called Soyuz a space prison, others a medieval torture chamber. The technology gap is even more shocking. Dragon runs on touchscreens and automation. The spacecraft practically flies itself. Ground control handles most issues. Astronauts only take manual control when absolutely necessary. Soyuz still uses analog dials and physical switches, hundreds of them. It's like comparing a Tesla to a 1980s Buick. But here's the twist that NASA never saw coming. This comfort created addiction. Once astronauts experienced Dragon's luxury, there was no going back. They didn't just prefer it, they refused alternatives. The $55 million advantage that broke the system. Cost wasn't supposed to matter this much. But Dragon delivers astronauts to space for $55 million per seat. Boeing's Starliner, $90 million per seat. That's a $35 million difference. Per astronaut, per flight. Why such a massive gap? Dragon rides SpaceX's reusable Falcon 9 rocket. The same booster lands back on Earth and flies again. Starliner launches on ULA's Atlas V, a rocket that burns up after one use. It's like the difference between owning a car and taking a taxi everywhere. The economics aren't even close. NASA thought competition would drive innovation. Instead, they got a monopoly by accident. But the real crisis started when politics entered the picture. And this is where things get dangerous. The feud that threatens America's space future. December 2024. Elon Musk and President Trump's relationship imploded. What started as policy disagreements escalated into public threats. Musk posted on social media Gong and D-10 government operations could be suspended, including Dragon flights. The Pentagon panicked. $22 billion in government contracts hung in the balance. America's only way to reach the International Space Station, Gong and D-10, suddenly became a political weapon. NASA administrators held emergency meetings. The White House issued stern warnings, but the damage was done. For the first time since 2011, Elon Musk, America faced the possibility of losing independent space access. Elon Musk. Again, the irony? NASA created this situation by letting Boeing fail D-10 for too long. Boeing's decade of disasters that sealed America's fate. Boeing received more money than SpaceX, had more time, more resources, more experience. So what went wrong? Starliner's first uncrewed test flight in 2019 nearly ended in disaster. Software errors prevented docking with the space station. The capsule burned through fuel, trying to fix problems that shouldn't have existed. The second test flight in 2022? Success, barely, but astronauts still couldn't fly because of parachute and flammability issues. Then came the real nightmare. Starliner's first crewed flight in June 2024 experienced thruster failures and helium leaks. What should have been an 8-day mission stretched to 8 months. The astronauts couldn't return safely. NASA had to call SpaceX, again, to bring them home. Every Boeing failure made NASA more dependent on Dragon. The backup plan became the only plan, and this created a national security crisis nobody anticipated. The Dragon Monopoly's terrifying geopolitical consequences. While America argued over spacecraft, China quietly built their space program. No competition, no political drama, just focused execution. Their goal? Land astronauts on the moon by 2030. Beat America back to lunar surface. China's astronauts train in their own spacecraft, launch on their own rockets, answer to their own government. No external dependencies, no political vulnerabilities. America's astronauts? They depend on a private company owned by the world's most unpredictable billionaire. The strategic implications are staggering. What happens if Musk decides Tesla is more important than SpaceX? What if international tensions affect his business decisions? What if he simply gets bored with space? NASA bet America's space future on corporate reliability, but corporations answer to shareholders, not national security. And this is where the monopoly becomes truly dangerous. The alternatives that don't exist when we need them most. NASA knows the risks. They're desperately searching for alternatives. Blue Origin, Rocket Lab, Stoke Space, all promising future capabilities. But future is the key word. Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket hasn't flown astronauts. Rocket Lab's Neutron exists only on paper. Stoke Space's Nova is years away from reality. Sierra Space offers Dream Chaser, a spaceplane design, but only the cargo version nears completion. The crew version remains in development. Meanwhile, the International Space Station approaches retirement. Current plans call for deorbiting by 2031. If alternative spacecraft aren't ready, America could lose space station access entirely. The window for competition is closing fast, and China isn't waiting. The human factor that reinforces the monopoly. Beyond politics and economics, there's human psychology. Astronauts trust Dragon because it works. 5 years of flawless operations, 10 crew missions without serious incidents, a safety record that speaks for itself. Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken, Dragon's first crew, helped design the spacecraft. Their input shaped everything from seat comfort to emergency procedures. Astronauts don't just fly Dragon, they help build it. That creates emotional investment beyond professional requirements. Contrast that with Starliner. Astronauts know about the software failures, the thruster problems, the extended missions. Trust takes years to build and minutes to destroy. NASA can order astronauts to fly alternative spacecraft, but can they order them to trust those vehicles with their lives? This psychological barrier makes the monopoly even stronger. The $22 billion mistake that changed everything. NASA's Commercial Crew Program cost taxpayers $22 billion. The goal was simple: create redundant access to space, avoid single points of failure. Instead, they created the most expensive single point of failure in space history. Dragon works perfectly, but perfection created complacency. NASA stopped pushing for alternatives because they had a solution that worked. Boeing's repeated failures should have triggered alarm bells. Instead, NASA kept writing checks and extending deadlines. The result? A monopoly wrapped in the illusion of competition. Now America faces a choice: accept the Dragon monopoly and hope Musk remains cooperative, or scramble to build alternatives before it's too late. But time is running out. China won't wait for America to solve its political problems. The space race is heating up again, and America just discovered they're running with only one shoe. What happens next could determine who controls space for the next 50 years. The final question that determines America's space future. So here we are. NASA spent $22 billion to create the exact problem they were trying to solve. One company, one spacecraft, one man's decision, controlling America's access to space. The astronauts love Dragon because it works. The taxpayers love the lower costs. Even NASA admits SpaceX delivers better results for less money. But at what cost? When China lands on the moon in 2030, will America still be dependent on Elon Musk's mood? When the next political crisis hits, will our astronauts be stranded again? The Dragon Monopoly isn't just a space problem. It's a mirror reflecting how America approaches innovation, competition, and national security in the 21st century. We wanted the best of both worlds, private efficiency with public oversight. Instead, we got private control with public consequences. The question isn't whether Dragon is amazing. It is. The question is, should any single company control America's space destiny? Boeing had their chance and blew it. Blue Origin is years behind. New players are still on the drawing board. Time is running out. And China. China is watching. What do you think? Is the Dragon Monopoly America's biggest space mistake or its greatest achievement? Drop your thoughts below because this conversation is just getting started. And if you want to see how this space drama unfolds, make sure you're subscribed. The next chapter of America's space story is about to be written. SpaceX built the world's most powerful rocket, but can't open a door. 3 Starships exploded, $3 billion wasted, 8 satellites stuck in space. Why can't the company that lands rockets perfectly solve this simple problem? The answer will shock you. Starship's payload door froze shut at 18 minutes into flight. Ice particles floating everywhere. Fuel leaking from multiple points. The door mechanism completely failed. But here's the real problem. This isn't bad luck. It's a design flaw that threatens SpaceX's entire future. Each failed mission costs millions more. Each explosion delays their timeline further. What's Musk's secret solution to save Starship? Let's dive right in. The $3 billion door crisis the moment everything went wrong. January 16th, 11:28 a.m. Starship S-35 cuts through space like a silver blade. Mission control is buzzing with excitement. Everything's going perfectly. Then, 18 minutes into the flight, the unthinkable happens. Click, nothing. Click, still nothing. The door mechanism, completely dead. 8 next-generation Starlink satellites worth $50 million are now trapped inside, like prisoners in the world's most expensive jail cell. The deployment system that was supposed to work like a cosmic card dealer has become SpaceX's worst nightmare. But here's what makes this truly terrifying. The warning signs were screaming at them for months. They just chose to ignore them. Why would Elon Musk risk everything on a door that clearly wasn't ready? The $3 billion door crisis the moment everything went wrong. January 16th, 11:28 a.m. Starship S-35 cuts through space like a silver blade. Mission control is buzzing with excitement. Everything's going perfectly. Then, 18 minutes into the flight, the unthinkable happens. Click, nothing. Click, still nothing. The door mechanism, completely dead. 8 next-generation Starlink satellites worth $50 million are now trapped inside, like prisoners in the world's most expensive jail cell. The deployment system that was supposed to work like a cosmic card dealer has become SpaceX's worst nightmare. But here's what makes this truly terrifying. The warning signs were screaming at them for months. They just chose to ignore them. Why would Elon Musk risk everything on a door that clearly wasn't ready? Pattern nobody wants to talk about. 3 ships, 3 explosions, 3 devastating failures in 6 months. Ship S-33 gone at 8.5 minutes. Boom. $90 million vaporized over the Turks and Caicos Islands. Ship S-34 didn't even make it that far. Engine failure, loss of attitude control. Another explosion, another 90 million gone. Now S-35 joins this graveyard of broken dreams floating in the endless black of space. That's $270 million in 6 months. But the real cost isn't money, it's time.